Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today's video is a start of area and volume of 3D shapes. The previous videos we were looking at area and perimeter of 2D shapes, and that chapter kind of goes hand in hand with what we're going to be doing today. So make sure that you know that chapter, that you understand those formulas, so that when you get to this work, it's a little easier. Alright, now before you start the calculations and work, you were required to build a net of these shapes. Alright, here's just a copied picture from the internet of some nets just to give you a description of what I'm about to say. Alright, so if we look at a net of a 3D shape, you'll see that it is built up of 2D shapes pasted together and then stuck together to make your 3D shape. Alright, that sort of goes hand in hand with the formula. When you study the formulas, you'll notice that the formulas are actually 2D formulas put together to form 3D formulas. Alright, so if you know your 2D formulas, understanding and knowing your 3D formulas becomes so much easier for you. So make sure you understand that. Alright, let's look at our formulas. So firstly, we're starting off with a cube. And here is a cube if you don't know what a cube looks like. Alright, now I want you to keep those nets of the shapes next to you so that when you're looking at the formulas or trying to calculate and you have one next to you, it makes it a little easier to see, especially with a rectangular prism and a triangular prism. Those can get really complicated at times. So having an actual shape next to you makes it just that much more easier. Okay, so let's look at a cube formula. The cube formula is A is equal to 6 open brackets length times breadth. Now, let's speak about our 2D cube, our 2D square area. Our 2D square area is equal to length times breadth. And if you look at a cube, it is built up of squares. So now take your 3D model and count how many squares there are. You should count that there are 6 squares. So therefore, all we are doing is calculating the area of a single square and multiplying it 6 to form your cube. Alright, let's look at a rectangle prism. Now, a rectangle prism, I'm going to go in more detail when we actually have an example because it'll be a lot easier in that perspective. But you'll see that we have 3 sections on the formula. Okay, the formula states A is equal to 2 open brackets length times breadth close bracket plus 2 open brackets length times height close brackets plus 2 open brackets base times height close brackets. Alright, now each section is based on a part that you can see in this picture over here, the blue rectangular prism. Okay, so it's either the front, which goes hand in hand with the back part of it, or the side, which has 2 sides, or the top, which also has a bottom piece. And that's why we're multiplying each one by 2, because it has a partner. So if we look at our top piece, our top should have the same measurement as the bottom, and our front piece should have the same measurement as the back, and our 2 side pieces should be the same. Therefore, we calculate the area of one rectangle that we can see, and we multiply by 2. Okay. Then we have a cylinder. Now, this is what a cylinder looks like. It looks like a can. All those chips that come in a can. Whichever work for you, identify with that. Alright? Let's say I want to put advertisements around my can and I need to figure out the area. This is the formula you would use to figure that out. The formula is area is equal to 2 times pi times the radius, open brackets, radius plus height, close brackets. Okay? Remember that your radius is the halfway line from the center to the end of your circle. And then your height goes from top to bottom. Alright, then we have a triangular prism, which is the shape on its own on the side. Alright, you will see a triangular prism is formed by 2 triangles and 3 rectangles. Now keep this 3D object next to you. This one you really want to see it in live action. Alright, so if you look at the formula, we have areas equal to 2 open big brackets, a half, base times height, close brackets, plus length times breadth, plus length times breadth, plus length times breadth. Now these formulas should be familiar to you. If you look at what's in the big bracket, it is your triangular formula. and our triangular formula is multiplied by 2. Reason being because we have 2 triangles, right? And then we have 3 rectangles, so we have 3 area rectangle formulas. And this builds up our triangular prism formula. Right, let's put this into practice now. Firstly, we have a cube, okay? Now remember that each side of a cube is equal to the same. So your length and your breadth will equal 3. That's why they've only given you one measurement. So your formula is A is equal to 6 open brackets length times breadth, and I've just stated that our length and our breadth will be 3. So you can fill that into your formula and then simplify. 3 times 3 will give you 9, and 9 times 6 will give you 54 centimeters squared. Don't forget about that centimeter square. Remember that if you don't provide it, you're not going to get that mark in an exam. So make sure that you are putting that there. Alright. Number 2 is your rectangular prism. Now there are multiple ways of filling in your formula, right? I'm going to try and explain all of them to you, and you can choose whichever understanding is better for you. Alright? So the main way is to fill in your length, your breadth, and your height accordingly. So length, breadth, height, and fill it in according to the letters. That's the easiest way, right? If you get confused between which is length, which is breadth, which is height, just know that you need to multiply each number by another number once. So they're all going to multiply each other once. Alright, so 4 times 8, 4 times 3, and 3 times 8. Now you might be thinking, but then we might not be putting it in the right substituting letter. That is alright, because if you mix up these two brackets, so let's say you put the last one first or the first one last, you will not get marked wrong on the order of it, long as your substitution is correct. Alright, if you don't understand what I'm saying, I apologize. Right? And then the final way of doing it is, I'm just going to pick a color over here to make it a little easier, right? Is looking at the shapes as a 2D shape. So your first one, length times breadth, would be this one over here in the yellow, alright? Then, let's grab another color. Then we look at the next rectangle, the side one over here. You can find the length and the breadth and substitute into the bracket. And then let's look at another color. Then our final one right at the top over here can be your final bracket. Okay, and then you would just look at the measurements. So if this is 8 centimeters here, this is also going to be 8 centimeters. Okay, if this is 3 centimeters, this is also going to be 3 centimeters on the side. Ooh. That's a horrible 3. Alright, and then you can just look at your formula like that. So let's fill in. Pick whichever method you like and fill in. So my length is 8, my breadth is 3, and my height is 4. So I filled it in accordingly, and I got this long bracket. Okay, so write that down into your exercise. Now, I am going to solve each bracket singly first. Alright, now the reason why I'm doing that is you may put this entire working out into your calculator, but think about when you're texting your friends. How often do you press a button by mistake and then you spell a name or whatever you're typing out wrong? Right? Same going with your calculator. Sometimes you're going to press the wrong button and you're going to put the wrong number in, and then you actually get the wrong answer. But if you do it singly and use less numbers, you're less likely to make a mistake. So that's why I do each bracket separately, calculate it separately using my calculator, and then I add it together last. Right, just to prevent that typing error. So 2 times 8 times 3 will give you 48. 2 times 8 times 4 will give you 64, and 2 times 3 times 4 will give you 24. Right, and then we're going to add all of those together, and you should get 136 centimeters squared. Alright, let's look at our final example. Our final example is another rectangular prism, so we're going to use that formula. Again, you can choose how you're going to substitute in, if you're going to just say one multiplied with another, or you're going to fill it in according to the length, the breadth, and height, or you're going to look at the side shapes individually. Okay, so pick your way, fill in accordingly. And my length I put as 4, my breadth I put in as 2, and my height I put in as 9. Alright. Then I'm going to calculate each section separately, like I told you in the previous one, to prevent errors. So 2 times 4 times 2 is 16. 2 times 4 times 9 will give you 72. And 2 times 2 times 9 will give you 36. Add them all together and you get 124 centimeters squared. Alright. Then we have our triangular prism. Now this one is really challenging, so you really need to pay attention right now. Okay? And I'm going to be using my highlighter just to help you guys understand a little bit, because it will make your life a lot easier when you color in a picture. Okay? So let's write down our formula. First of all, our first section of the formula is pretty easy. It's our triangular formula. Okay? So B is your base, so it's the bottom part of the triangle, which is 5, okay? And then your height is the perpendicular height that goes through the center of the triangle, or if we have a right angle, the right angle side. So it would be 3 centimeters. It is not 4 centimeters. 4 centimeters is representing the side length, but if we stood this up, right, it would be taller than the actual triangle. Therefore, it cannot be the height. Alright, let me just erase this. How do we erase this? There we go. Alright, so then with our rectangles, okay, you're going to look at each one individually. So we're going to look at this one first. You'll see that the length and the breadth, so you have 4 and 6, so you can fill that in on the first one. Then the second one, you're going to be using this side over here. Alright, this one is going to be the same as the light blue. It's going to be 4, and this length should also be 6, because if that side is 6, this side will be 6 as well. They have to be matching, okay? And then the final piece of the puzzle is this bottom rectangle, and this is why I say you need to keep one at hand, because it's easier to see it. Alright, so the bottom piece, now the length and the breadth is different, so you have 6 and 5. Alright, so fill that in your formula accordingly. Then again, you can put this entire thing in your calculator, or you can put section by section in your calculator and then add everything at the end, which I like to do. Okay? Just note something with the triangle formula. I want you to quickly take your calculators. Put 5 times 3, you should get 15. Then multiply by a half, you should get 7,5. And then multiply it by 2, you should get 15 again. Do you see that this 2 and this half is actually bringing you back to the original multiplication answer? Reason being is, if we go back to our fractions and we had to make this into a fraction, so if we put 2 over 1 and then we go and we cross cancel, so 2 goes into itself once and 2 goes into itself once. Therefore, anything multiplied by 1 would be itself. So all you really need to do is say 3 times 5 will give you 15. Okay. Then let's look at the rest. 6 times 4 will give you 24. 6 times 4 will give you 24. And 5 times 6 will give you 30. Add them all together and you should get 93 centimeters squared. Now this one's quite a challenging question, so what I would advise to you guys is to go and get some extra examples on this and practice it, because this example is really sometimes challenging. Or you can use the colors like I've done. Coloring in always makes maths a lot easier, so do it. Now the next example I am not going to do with you because we have a missing value over here, and you need to use Pythagoras in order to solve it, and you have not learned Pythagoras yet. So I'm going to skip this one and just move on for now, and we will redo this when we get back to school. Okay, just note the different type of shape in comparison to what we had over here. See the difference? Okay? Make sure that when you're calculating a shape like this, you understand that for the triangle, this is your base and this x is your height now. Okay, and then you're going to calculate each rectangle individually. Alright, then finally we have our cylinders. Okay, now the first cylinder kind of looks like a really big can, and then number 7 is looking like a cream. Okay, now a formula for a cylinder is the one that just pops up on the screen. Note that we need to use pi. Now, I've put a calculator on the side just to show you where pi is again, if you guys forgot. You'll see that the button of pi is circled, and you'll see that pi is this yellow little pi sign over there. I've underlined it in green. Okay, to get that, you're going to press Shift, and then press this button that says times 10 to the power of x, and that should provide pi on your screen. Okay, this is not a real life calculator, so you can't actually see it, but if you have your calculator out, just test it before you get going. Okay, so first of all, we need a radius and we need a height. Your radius is 4 centimeters and your height is 12 centimeters, so you're going to fill in your formula accordingly. Now note, between the 2, the pi and the 4, we are actually multiplying. Okay, you don't have to show it because they are in brackets and so forth. But if you want to put it there to remind yourself you need to multiply, then do so. Okay, now you can type this entire thing in your calculator. It's small enough to do so, so do so. 2 times pi times 4, open brackets 4 plus 12. Now when you press equals, you are going to get an answer with a pi sign. So this isn't the answer, but I'm just going to show you what it looks like. Let's say if it was 64 pi. Now remember that this is not the answer. This means 64 times pi. So when you get this, you are going to press this button that I'm circling here on the calculator in green, and then that will give you your decimal answer of 402,12 centimeters squared. Right, so make sure if you put this in a calculator, if you put this working out in a test, you are going to get marked wrong. So do not do that. Right, number 7, we're using the same formula, so just put your formula down. You get 1 mark for just putting the formula down, doing no maths, no nothing. Just put that down. 1 mark, alright? Now fill in accordingly. Our radius is 5, our height is 6. And then put that whole thing in your calculator, press equals, remember to change from your pi sign to a decimal, and you should get an answer of 345,58 centimeters squared. And then we got another one, another cylinder. Now the difference here is they've given us a diameter instead of a radius. But if we look at our formula, we need a radius. So we need to change our diameter into a radius. Now, remember that a radius is half of a diameter. So to get the radius, you're going to take your diameter, divide it by 2, and that will give you a radius. So 20 divided by 2 will give you 10. Then you can fill it into your formula. Here's my formula. The radius is 10, your height is 7. Put it in your calculator, change it to a decimal, and you should get an answer of 1,068,14 centimeters squared. Alright, then when you're done with all of those examples and you understand, then you can go and attempt this exercise. Good luck. I hope you guys understand. I hope you guys do well, and keep tuned for the next video. The next video is going to be on volume. So I'll see you guys then.